Hello everyone, this is Kat with Cat Night TV. We are back with Seduce Me, a visual novel. This is part 5 of the playthrough. As a reminder, this game is 16 plus, so just keep that in mind. And we are back to the story now. As a reminder, we just had some alone time with one of the incubus, James, so now we were heading back to school. We made it into the school without a hitch. Our lockers were in the same part of the hall, so we quickly unloaded what we needed to and got our important books and necessities. First incident of the day. As I walked towards Suzu and Naomi, who were both waiting for me on the opposite side of the hall, something hooked my ankle and made me fall forward. Whoa! Ow!
Hey, are you okay?
Who did that?
The three of us looked back to see Lizette and her gaggle of girls. Lizette had a look of complete innocence, while the girls around her giggled like no tomorrow.
Why, you little...
Suzu, don't!
I felt a giant fire of anger burn in my stomach as I stared at Lizette. Today was not the only time this had happened to me. However, it was now clear who was behind these incidents. Even if she was innocent and one of her goons did it, it was now obvious that Lizette was the mastermind just from the look on her face. She was no friend, nor would she ever be. I had to do something. Glare into her soul, get her. Stand up and walk away. Alright. I'll glare into her soul. I glared hard at Lizette, feeling wisps of air and magic run through my skin and veins. However, I stopped at what I saw. Around Lizette was a dark purple aura that seemed all too familiar. It was like demon magic, but it seemed to be tamer. I slowly rose to my feet, collecting my belongings as I continued to stare at Lizette. Something was off. As I continued to look at her, the aura grew, forming a shadow behind Lizette with red eye-like shapes glowing from within its darkness.
Anderson, you all right?
I couldn't respond. I was entranced by a small hum in the air. It was distant, almost like an ethereal whisper you'd hear in a horror game, but it was real. It sounded vaguely of a woman, humming a tune I didn't recognize.
Hey, are you okay?
Let's go. We'll be late for class. I suddenly felt the need to walk away, so I did. Naomi and Suzu scrambled to catch up and follow at my new quickened pace.
Sheesh, Anderson, you look like you saw a ghost.
Are you really okay? That fall was pretty bad.
Think she saw underneath Lisette's cake face and saw the devil itself.
Oh, Suzu, hush!
No, something was wrong with Lisette. It was more than just her being mean. There was something or someone watching over Lisette. Or they were watching me behind Lisette. Whatever they were doing, I didn't know, but it was definitely demonic. Surprisingly, the rest of the school day went off without another incident. I went to my classes, had lunch, and was anxious to get home. As the bell rang for school to end, I felt my phone vibrate in my pocket. Huh? A text? From Dad? I'll be picking you up today. Make sure you're ready to go when I get there. That's kind of a surprise. I quickly headed back to my locker and got my things before waiting for Naomi and Suzu.
Hey, are you ready to go?
Actually, my dad's picking me up.
Really? Okay, I guess that kind of makes sense.
We'll drive home together next time. Tell your dad that we've got you covered from now on.
Ha, right. Even while I laughed, something didn't seem right. My dad texted me to say this. Why was he going to pick me up? Had I done something wrong? I didn't know. I waved goodbye to Naomi and Suzu before heading off to the usual spot where my dad picks me up. I took time to listen to my music while I waited. I need to go to another Rise of the Phoenix concert. Eventually I had played the entire album with no one showing up. What the hey? Dad's never late, especially not this late. I quickly dialed my dad's number again, but as soon as I pressed call, it disconnected and read a signal disconnection error message. What the? No signal error? How do I not have a signal? I double-checked my phone and saw all 5 bars for signal. He must be in a dead zone. Before I could finish, a group of hands grabbed at my hands, feet, and covered my mouth. I screamed into the hand over my mouth, struggling to pull away from the hands grabbing at my limbs. It felt disgusting and scary, feeling their hands on me. I needed it to stop.
Hey! Don't dirty up Malix's prey!
The voice, which sent a fearful shiver down my spine, whispered into my ear.
You're coming with me, Miss Anderson.
I couldn't fathom what was happening, but before I knew it, I was blindfolded and my limbs were quickly tied up. I felt myself being carried somewhere, and I was shoved into something that echoed the interior of a bus or van. The doors closed and off I was taken, unsure of where I was going and why. All I knew was that I was in trouble. All I saw was darkness. I felt numb as I was taken to a place I didn't know of. I couldn't even move my lips to scream. Sound as it passed my ears, first of the interior of a car, then the outside, then an echoey space with whispers and cackles of people vibrating through it. However, the wrap around my eyes was eventually removed from my face, and my bonds were cut. It took a while for my eyes to adjust, but I found myself in a warehouse, surrounded by devils, including Malix, who was smirking at me.
Nicely done! I'm sure those little shits will come running to find you when they realize you didn't return to your precious little mansion. They'll search everywhere for you.
Malix walked over and set the barrel of his gun against the skin between my eyes.
It'll be so funny when they find your dead body instead.
Wait, fight. But they're not ready to fight necessarily. Let's wait. I could see Malix pull the trigger before bracing myself.
Oh, what the fuck?
Figured the magic would help. Opened my eyes again to see Malix jamming his finger against the trigger, trying to shoot me to no avail.
Well, she either has the barrier spell on her, or you're losing your power.
Shut up! I'm not losing shit! This little brat must have that spell on her!
I felt a wave of relief run through my body. The other devils laughed at Malix, which made him angrier.
I said, shut up!
Malix suddenly moved his gun towards a nearby devil and pulled the trigger. As I stared wide-eyed as the bullet from Malix's gun rammed itself into the neck of the devil boy. The wound spouted fire and blood, causing the devil to scream and flail in extreme pain before falling limp to the ground. As the body hit the floor, it began to almost deform and melt. Blood and black ash poured out of the wound and every opening that the body had, causing the smell of death to quickly fill the room. I felt like gagging as the body eventually stopped moving. The body became like a deflated balloon, showing me the true nature of Malix's gun. It was now just a pile of blood and skin. The bullet had burned up the muscle, bones, and any structure the body had to give it its form. That could have been me. That could have been me.
Anyone else wanna laugh at me? Huh?
The devils around us shut their mouths, obeying the warning of the obvious master of the space. Malix growled before glaring at me.
As I was saying, it must be some holy magic or some shit like that. Eris?
The girl who had kidnapped me stood beside Malix, looking at me. Malix wrapped a strong arm around her waist and pulled her tight against his side before burying his face against her neck. Eris didn't react, but continued to stare at me as Malix ravaged her shoulder and neck in violent kisses. Eventually, Malix pulled away, licking his lips before looking to Eris's face.
Be a dear and get rid of her barrier. Now.
Without another word, Eris walked around me out of my line of sight. As I turned my head to try and follow her, Malix raised his gun in my face once again, forcing me to stop moving.
I may not be able to shoot you yet, brat. But there are other ways I can beat the living shit out of you.
I hate to say his name and then they'd know it, so... Wait. I didn't say a single word. I knew how to defend myself against anything he had to offer. I was slowly losing my fear of him, and it was oddly satisfying. All of a sudden, however, I felt the air escape me and rush behind me, sucked away from me by a mysterious force. It was like a large vacuum was pulling my soul out from my back. What was even worse is that I felt stuck in place as this was happening. I turned my head to barely see Eris holding a red orb that was absorbing a white stream of air and possibly magic from my body. Eris kept her eyes to my back, but Malix grabbed my face and made me look back at him, smirking.
That barrier around you won't be protecting you much longer. Be patient, little human.
Before Malix pulled away, he slapped his hand against my cheek a couple of times. Not enough to force my head to turn, but enough to hurt and leave a powerful sting. I wanted to do something. I needed to. I was going to die if that barrier was removed. Fight. No way this was happening. No way I was going to let myself be a victim of this. I gotta remember what was in that book.
What are you whimpering? Are you praying that the boys will come and save you?
I kept grumbling, trying to remember, and shut my eyes. Studying for a brief second wasn't enough to keep a spell in my mind, but I had to try something, anything. All of a sudden, the air grew still and silent. I opened my eyes and looked around and gasped at the sight. Everything was frozen in time, as if the clocks had stopped and everything had followed suit. What the... At first, I instantly wanted to move, but my feet were glued to the ground. I guess I couldn't change time and escape from where I was, but I was still lost. What was I supposed to do? A soft wisp of wind made me turn to a floating light purple orb. I stared as it glowed, giving off a warm feeling. For some reason, this thing made me feel happy and content, despite the situation I was in. My heart felt like crying, yet I didn't know why. It couldn't have been Grandfather? As I muttered, the orb slowly grew and faded into a spirit of my grandfather from when I had last seen him. I stared up at him, completely shocked that I was correct and that his form was standing in front of me.
I guess it was a good idea to bring the incubi here after all.
What? Is it really you? What do you mean? My grandfather smiled before patting my head gently. I couldn't feel it, but I knew he tried, so I closed my eyes in acknowledgement before looking at him again.
Sweetie, I'm sorry for not telling you, but I didn't know if you were ready to know.
That you handled demon magic?
Yes.
Why? What is there to gain from learning and using demon magic?
It wasn't a matter of gaining anything except knowledge. Through magic, I was able to learn more about the demon world and its wonders. I even met your incubi friends.
You met the boys?
Yes. It was I who helped them come here, but it seems it was at the cost of my life.
What? Why? Why sacrifice yourself like that? None of this made sense. He died to bring the incubi into the human world? Why? Why? My mind was practically screaming in anger. I needed answers. With time being frozen, we had all the time in the world. Why would you die for something like that? Why leave us alone? Why leave me alone?
I wasn't intending to, my dear. But now that I'm gone, you have a chance to find yourself without anything hindering you.
What?
Your father had always been so hard on you. I'm to blame for that. He learnt of my studies before he married your mother and pushed me away. promising to never follow in my footsteps. As he was my son, I still loved and cared for him. I helped him in little ways, from paying bills and making sure he had food to come home with by adding money to his accounts. You don't know how hard your father worked to get to where he is now.
I stared, trying to take it all in. It was true that my dad worked really hard, but I didn't realize how rough he had it.
When you were born, I couldn't have been any happier. I tried to give you as many toys as I could, but many of them were tossed away by your father to protect you from me. I thought I would never be able to see you, but when I found you on the street, I was blessed enough to be given a chance. After I brought you back to your parents, I asked your mother to convince your father to let you visit me often, and he finally agreed.
Why does Dad hate you so much? Why put that on me?
Your father saw me as a monster. He was afraid I would hurt you. He wanted to protect you from me at all costs, even if it meant becoming a monster to you himself.
You did not know my father! You did not know what he was capable of!
He truly does love and care for you, but he doesn't want you to be as curious as I was.
Curious?
I chose to learn about magic. I grew curious about it. He thought that was wrong, so when I didn't give it up, he shut me out of his life.
What a stubborn old man.
So I did the only thing I could do. I gave everything I owned to you, including my hidden books your father never knew of.
My head began to spin. There was too much information. It was all going so fast, despite time not moving a single inch.
I'm just so happy that my curiosity stayed with you.
So my grandfather met the incubi. That seemed so surreal. I could hardly believe it, yet here was the spirit of my grandfather telling me. It was almost like a dream. So you introduced them to the human world.
That's right. I told them about the wonders of our world, and they all wanted to come to experience it. So I helped them come over and gave them everything they needed. They traveled everywhere, and I helped them as they learned more about humans. Then, I suddenly stopped breathing. I don't know why, but I believe it was because my time was up. After I died, the boys tried to come back. However, Malix attacked them instantly when they crossed his path. I used the last bit of my strength to guide them to the estate so they had a place to stay to heal.
So that's why they were in the house. But they said they didn't know about the house belonging to anyone.
I never told them it belonged to anyone. I merely told them to head to the estate for shelter until they could learn to live on their own.
If the estate was meant for them, why give it to me?
I never knew your father would move you in so quickly. Even still, you managed to learn of them and learn of the demon world. You even were curious enough to study the magic.
Why not teach me when I visited?
You were too young to understand. I was hoping that you would make the choice to learn on your own when you were ready to handle it. And you did. I'm so proud of you.
What are you saying? I've barely begun reading it. I don't remember anything.
I will help you remember.
Then my grandfather gently bent down and kissed my forehead. All at once, my mind began to fill with spells and history of arcane magic, the demon world, and everything my grandfather had known. I looked up at my grandfather again, now able to remember everything and more as he smiled down at me.
Never forget. Make your own choices and do what you need to do. Don't let someone determine your life for you. If you decide to never look at magic again, I'll understand. But now at least you know it's there.
My grandfather then patted my head before turning and walking away. I tried to follow after, still unsure and lost as ever, but my feet remained stuck to the floor. Wait, please. He didn't turn back, and he didn't stop walking. Soon he vanished past the wall, leaving me alone once again. I gritted my teeth, trying not to cry. My mind was filled with both the power to defend myself and a large amount of confusion. I could never hope to shake it off. I could feel the air around me start to move again, so I tightened my hands into fists, trying to push away my concerns. I had to remember. I was Malix's captive. I had to escape. After I escaped, I could figure out my life. Soon the world around me returned to normal, with Malix mocking me. I closed my eyes and began to mutter a spell from memory. Spiritus Lumine da Fort... Anyway, I'm not going to even try and read that.
What the? Latin? What are you?
Decidio. pictured that, I'm sure. All of a sudden, a wave of light burst from my body, washing over the room and pushing the devils away from me to the ground. As the light quickly faded, I shook my head, feeling a small weakness in my legs. Alex quickly hopped up and growled at me, obviously surprised, but irritated beyond belief.
Where did you learn that? I will rip that tongue right out your mouth.
Another spell.
Come here!
Alex charged me, dropping the gun that would never hurt me to the floor and reaching for my face. However, I quickly crouched down and covered my head with my arms, while a dark magic circle appeared under my feet. Above me, a dark shield appeared, blocking Alex from touching me.
How? You're just a human!
A human who knows how to fight back. I pushed back against the shield, forcing Alex back before standing. I wasn't some damsel in distress. I could fight for myself. I shook out the sudden appearance of numbness in my hands, and I glared at Alex, challenging him once again to come at me.
Alex!
No! Stay out of it! I'll kill this bitch with my own two hands one way or another!
As commanded, Eris stayed away from us, along with the other devils. The group was watching us, lost in intrigue as I stood up against their leader.
Oh, you must think you're some tough shit since you know some demon magic, huh? Well, guess what, princess? Demon magic consumes energy. I could play this all day, and when you finally lose all your energy, your ass is grass.
I glared, knowing that what he said was true. I couldn't hold out forever, but I definitely had the energy to last a while until someone found me, or until I could overpower Alex somehow. Alex charged at me once again, causing me to run backwards to keep some sort of distance. I could feel energy wanting to shoot out of my hands, so I pointed my palms at Alex. Light purple spikes suddenly began shooting from my hands, forcing Alex to skid back. I had terrible aim, only able to scratch the edges of his body, with one or two actually stabbing into his shoulder and leg. Alex growled, pulling them out and throwing them to the ground.
Quit playing around, Alex!
I lowered my hands, feeling the numbness run up through my veins to consume both of my arms. I began to pant, desperate for some relief before continuing. Alex smirked at the sight. Oh, for the love of God, please somebody find me, I prayed. I hoped that I wouldn't have to keep fighting. I was becoming desperate. What made everyone in that warehouse drop our fighting faces was the screeching of police sirens coming closer to our location. Alex smirked even wider.
It's time to have fun, boys! Make sure you kill them all!
The devils all seemed to get excited and started to walk past us to meet with the cops, but a loud finger snap stopped them and made them turn around. Alex and I looked to see Eris with her hand in the air, post-snap.
Eris? What are you doing?
Enough, Alex! We've wasted enough time in this stupid town. I'm getting out of here and I'm taking the rest with me.
I didn't know whether to laugh or not. I bit my tongue as Alex got angry again.
Like hell you are! Boys, do as I say, or else!
None of the boys moved. Eris snapped her fingers again, causing the boys to rush back past her and out another way from the warehouse.
Alex, it's over. You can't even beat a human girl. You're losing your powers. Lower devils only follow higher-ups that actually have power.
Shut your mouth!
Alex summoned his gun to his hand and shot multiple times at Eris, who somehow managed to teleport away from the shooting line and reappear by us. She shook her head, letting out a sigh before grabbing Alex by the neck and pulling him off of me. Alex started to choke as Eris stared coldly at him.
All this for a bunch of pretty boys. You must be stupid and desperate.
Eris looked to me, making me tense up.
Human! I suggest heading home to your pretty boys. You don't want to get involved in a supernatural investigation. It's a pain in the ass.
She then turned back to Malix, glaring daggers into him as he glared back at her.
You really think women are weak? Let me fix that, sweetie.
And with that, Eris vanished into the shadows, taking Malix with her. As I was left alone, the police siren stopped. I looked over to the open passage to see the incubi with a large police siren megaphone staring at me in surprise.
Where is he? I swear I'm gonna...
He's gone. Eris took him and left. They won't be coming back. It was so surreal. I was helped by a devil, but I quickly shook off the feeling. I was alive, and that was all that mattered. I fought to stay alive, and there I was. The boys tried to question me, but James cleared his throat, catching the attention of his brothers and me.
Let's just get you home, miss. There's nothing more to see here.
All together, we began to walk out of the warehouse, back home. There was no way in hell anyone was going to find out about this. It was over. Malix was gone, and the boys were finally safe. A wave of relief ran through my body at the thought of never having to deal with that group again. At the same time, a ping of realization hit the back of my mind. The boys were only going to stay until after Malix was defeated. That was our deal. As we approached home, I could feel something heavy weigh down on my heart. It was late, but the boys led me inside and turned on the lights in the lobby.
Finally, we can relax.
It will be good to have some rest without devils breathing down our necks.
I'm just tired. Can I hit the hay early?
I think some sleep would be good for all of us.
I looked to Damien, knowing he could read my mind, and frowned. I didn't want him to know about my thoughts on the situation. Yeah, bed sounds good. I wanted to just end tonight. Too much had happened, and I felt dizzy just trying to figure it out. However, Damien spoke up, stopping all of us from moving.
Should we be gone in the morning?
The air became still with tension. The realization of the situation hit the boys like a wave, forcing them to turn to me in curiosity. They had remembered their deal, and were now awaiting me to decide their fate. I gulped, face to face with the reality of the situation. The boys were leaving it up to me. They looked like they were willing to accept whatever I had demanded. It was only fair, though, after all that had happened. I looked to James, feeling my heart flutter in my chest. I didn't want him to leave, but would he ask to stay? I hoped that he would say no and ask me to stay longer. As if he knew what I wanted, James moved and smiled at me, taking my hand and bringing it to his lips for a kiss. He moved it away, smiled to me, and spoke.
Miss, if I may be so forward. Despite the short time we've stayed here, I've thoroughly enjoyed my time here. That being said, would you allow us to stay here?
My heart skipped while a large red blush ran across my cheeks. The boys stared at James wide-eyed, but didn't dare to speak out. James stepped back to give me space, returning to where he was. I moved my gaze across each boy, trying to make a decision. If they left in the morning, I would never see them again, and my life could return to normal. If I did decide to let them go, that would have been for the best. No goodbyes, no delays. But did I want to? If they had done so much for me in a small amount of time. Let them go or let them stay? They can stay, I guess. I wanted them to stay. I wanted him to stay. I merely smiled, staring at the man I had come to have feelings for, before speaking at last. I would love it if you all would stay. The boys cheered tiredly, but nonetheless enthusiastically. I giggled at the sight. It was cute to see everyone so excited, despite the tiredness that ran equally through our bodies. Today was a rough day. My home is your home, as long as you can still help with the chores. The boys nodded in unison, agreeing to the terms I had set for them. Despite the good situation, I felt myself slowly slipping into unconsciousness. However, James quickly clapped his hands together, getting everyone's attention and waking me up, making sure I didn't pass out on the floor.
All right, everyone. We're all very tired, so let's head to bed, shall we?
Oh! Yeah, sleep is actually a thing. Right.
We've had a very long day, but it will be good to just relax tonight and tomorrow.
Sleep sounds really good right now.
Yeah, man.
I watched a very happy smile grow onto James's lips. He shared my excitement, knowing that we would be together longer. Who knew how long we would stay together? All I cared about was that I would be with him. The others quickly left to finally rest, leaving me and James alone at last. My heart fluttered a bit as James walked closer to me, gently wrapping his arms around my form. I placed my hands onto his shoulders, leaning close.
You are an absolutely wonderful woman. I'm so happy that you let us stay here.
I'm happy too, James. I stared up into his eyes, getting lost in them. I didn't know if it was the tiredness or the growing attachment to him, but I felt myself lean into James's body. It invited me to stay a while, making me forget that my bed was also calling for me. James nodded before kissing my forehead sweetly.
Come, let's get you to bed.
I nodded before James gently lifted me up into his arms like a bride, oh God, and carried me to my room. I didn't want to leave his arms, leaning my head against James's chest, but eventually I was slowly lowered to my bed and covered with my bed covers. I was still in my school clothes, but I was too tired to strip or care. I looked to James, fighting a yawn from escaping me as he gently ran a hand over my hair.
Have sweet dreams. I'll prepare breakfast again for you in the morning.
I nodded with a tired smile before watching him slowly stand and leave my room, closing the door. A wave of happiness washed over me as I laid in bed. I made a good choice. Sure, it would be hard, but I could tell that I would be able to manage it. Help around the house and being with a man whom I was slowly starting to fall for would be worth it. I slowly felt my exhaustion take over. I let sleep consume me as I drifted into the darkness in my mind. Everything was peaceful. I was happy.
You are an interesting creature.
So that's it for now. We'll be back with part 6 soon and find out who this is disturbing our happy ending, so to speak. If you liked the video, make sure to like it, subscribe for more, and have a good night.